So it's December 1st. The Habby tree is up, and the Canadiens, well, they're getting ready for a back-to-back, starting with a game this Tuesday against the Ottawa Senators. Let's talk some puck. Hey gang, Kosta here from PuckTalk Montreal, welcoming you to this December 1st edition of the show. And let's get right to it, because there's a lot that I want to talk about in this episode, beginning with the fact that Cole Caulfield was named the Molson Cup winner for the month of November. Of course, Caulfield started off the month still red hot after his start in October. But as Juraj Slafkovsky came off his line, his production seemed to tail off a little bit. Still enough to win the award for the month of November, but that production has to come back up. So hopefully December is a lot more jolly, for lack of a better term, for Caulfield than November was at the tail end. Now, a lot of that has to do with the fact that Slafkovsky was gone from his line, and Slafkovsky is now pushing the envelope when it comes to the second line. We'll see whether or not Caulfield can adapt. But there was something else that I wanted to bring up. And it came from a comment from one of my longtime followers and listeners, Roy, who lives out in Bangkok. And he told me to take off my rose-colored glasses when it came to the Montreal Canadiens. Roy knows for a very long time, especially on Montreal Hockey Talk, I was extremely hard on the Habs, especially under Marc Bergevin or Michel Therrien or whoever the coach was at the time, because I was frustrated, because things were not going well, because it was prolonged suffering. Well, Roy, I don't have rose-colored glasses on. Here's the reason why. The Montreal Canadiens are currently third in the Atlantic Division, right? 1 point ahead of the Ottawa Senators, so tomorrow's game is going to be huge, and we'll get to that in a minute. But overall, when you take a look at where Montreal was last season, they were at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. So regardless of what happened during that 5-game losing streak, regardless of the fact that they stopped playing good hockey, they were allowing way too many goals, defensively they were absolutely putrid, that ship has sailed. They won 3, lost 1 against Colorado, and now they're going to face off against Ottawa. What that is a lull, an adjustment, because after all, this team has a lot of injuries to some very key personnel. So to turn around and say that I'm wearing rose-colored glasses, I mean, I get that you're pissed. I get that you want this team to be better. But here it is in a nutshell for me. When this team was healthy, I think I was the only person on the face of this planet on this very podcast where I said I thought the Canadiens would contend for a division title, right? I thought the Leafs would regress, minus Mitch Marner, and given the fact that Tampa was not much better than they were, and Boston was going to be midway through, and I didn't see Columbus or Detroit pushing the envelope, I thought Montreal had a very good chance at winning the division. They're just a few points back, I think 5 from the Tampa Bay Lightning, if memory serves. And so they're not far off, even though they're missing some very key pieces, like Kirby Dach, like Alex Newhook, like Caden Gooley. So despite all that, the Canadiens are still in good standing. They've put a lot of goodwill in place because of their month of October. They lost a few games in November. Now it's a brand new month. Going into December, it's a clean slate. Let's see what they bring here. But I'll tell you this much. Nobody expected Montreal to be third in the division. Nobody. And me, I said it. By the end of the year, they may very well be at the top of the division. They still haven't played Tampa yet. They played Boston once. There's still a lot of games coming up. But don't tell me I got rose-colored glasses, because this team is a good hockey club. Despite the fact that everybody says they've got no size. Well, like my girlfriends used to say, size doesn't matter. Actually, I shouldn't have said that, but whatever. At the end of it all, when you take a look at the Canadiens as it is, if they play their game and they stop trying to adapt to what the other team is doing, they're going to be successful. The reason why they lost so many games is because they started trying to play the games that other teams were playing. Along the perimeter, finishing body checks, being more physical than they ought to be. The Canadiens' game is speed. When they play with speed, they're deadly. Unless, of course, they play against the Colorado Avalanche because they have more speed. But at the end of it all, look at the 30 other teams in the National Hockey League. The Canadiens can contend with all of them. They can play tight with all of them. There's not one team that you're going to say is going to be overly great against the Montreal Canadiens. The Habs have a lot of talent. The Habs have first-year talent on the first line. Their second line is starting to develop. And their bottom six, well, it needs a little bit of work, but with a little bit of that work, they could be very adapted as well and very useful as the season progresses. So give it time. Stop saying I got rose-colored glasses on because, dude, I do not. That is one thing I've never had. I never will. I always look at this team objectively. If I thought the team was crap, you'd hear me tell you they're crap. They're not. They're well coached, despite what a lot of other people think. Every time Marty St. Louis loses a game, fire the coach. That's not how things work. Okay, you look at the body of work, and he's done yeoman's work with this team. Young players, bringing them up, developing them. I mean, we got to stop. And that brings me to one other point, and that is the double standard when it comes to Ivan Demidov. Here it is in a nutshell. Last season, when he was in the KHL playing for SKA, everybody and their mother bitched and complained about how little ice time he got. And he still led the league in rookie scoring. Fast forward to this year, he's still getting less time than most other rookies out there and still leading the rookie race in scoring. There is no reason why the Montreal Canadiens need to rush Demidov into 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-minute territory just yet. He'll get there. But it's a progression. He's still in his first full season. So stop trying to jump the gun on development. Rome wasn't built in a day. I know everybody wants to win a Stanley Cup. I know everybody wants to be contenders now. I got news for you. Those rose-colored glasses that Roy talks about, that's not happening here. They are not Stanley Cup contenders yet. Can they win a playoff round? Yes. Can they get to the Holy Land? No. What they need to do is continue to develop. You've still got your premier goaltender in the American Hockey League, and your number 2 center is playing for the Michigan Wolverines right now. Pull on the reins a little bit and relax. We're not winning the Stanley Cup tomorrow. We're not winning it at the end of the season, and I don't think we're even going to get there next season. We're maybe 2 years away. Ease into it. Because once it starts, that continued success that we're going to see over a decade, maybe more, because the coffers are going to be full of talent, you're going to be thanking Ken Hughes and Jeff Gordon instead of turning around and criticizing them because the team's not ready to win a Stanley Cup now. This isn't Toronto, folks, where the minute the wind blows east to west or north-south, we're planning a parade for a team that cannot win. We don't do that here in Montreal. We're smart fans. So what do? You sit back, you enjoy the ride, just like we have been. From year 1, where they were not great, year 2, where they got better, year 3, where they made the playoffs, despite everybody saying no, and one guy saying yes, and now this year I'm telling you they might win the division. So listen, please, stop giving yourself ulcers, stop giving yourselves aggravation for nothing. We're going to get there. It's just going to take a little bit more patience and a little bit more time. Enjoy the development. Enjoy the progress. Rebuilding a hockey team is like a flower or a beautiful rose or whatever you want to say. It starts with a seed or a bulb. It grows and then it blooms. Once it blooms, you're going to have all kinds of fun with it. It'll last a while. It'll be beautiful. You put it in water and you let it live for a bit. That's what's going to happen with Montreal. They're going to be there. Believe me. But you got to still be patient. It's not happening overnight. Now, let's take a look at the lineups for tomorrow night's game versus the Ottawa Senators. So as we look at these lineups, for the Ottawa Senators, you've got Eller, Stützle, and Batherson on the first line, Tkachuk, Cousins, and Zetterlund on the second line, Amadio, Pinto, and Giroux on the third, and on the fourth, man, I can't even read that. Hang on. I will tell you. Come on. Oh, boy, come on. There we go. It's Cousins, Gregg, and Perron on the fourth line. I should have known that already, but hey. On defense for the Ottawa Senators, you got Sanderson and Zub, Cleveland and Spence, Matanpalo and Jensen. Man, I cannot pronounce that name. And then in goal, still not confirmed by the Ottawa Senators, but it'll either be Ullmark or Merolainen. It'll most probably be Ullmark, but you never know. For the Montreal Canadiens, the lineup is pretty much going to stay as is right now. Caulfield, Suzuki, and Bolduc will be the first line. Slavkovsky, Kapanen, and Demidov the second. Texier, Evans, and Anderson the third. And Florian Xhekaj, Joe Veleno, and Brendan Gallagher rounding out the fourth. On defense, Matheson and Dobson. Xhekaj, that's Arbor and Lane Hudson, and Adam Engstrom and Alexander Carrier. In goal, Sam Montembeault confirmed to be the starter for Montreal. Are you surprised? I'm not. And while all of you are thinking, oh no, Montembeault, listen. In last week's game, he earned another shot. Playing 1-1 is fine after you have that kind of performance. The question is, can he repeat? That's going to be the important part that we're going to have to watch here from Montembeault. But he's earned his start. Not to mention that the Winnipeg Jets, despite the fact that they're losing right now by a score of in Buffalo by a score of 3-0 in the second period, which is a surprise to me anyway, they're the tougher of the two opponents. So putting Dobish in against the Winnipeg Jets is the smart move for the Montreal Canadiens. And it also is a little bit of a shift in goaltending because normally it would be Montembeault getting the harder assignments. But that's not what's happening now because he's struggling. It might change, but right now the thought process is correct for the Canadiens goaltenders. Let's take a look at the scratches or who's not dressed for tomorrow's game. We've got McDermott, Gilbert, and Hodgson out as scratches for the Ottawa Senators. And very important on defense, no Thomas Chabot for the Ottawa Senators. For Montreal, Davidson out, Struble out. Now, Struble, he's nursing an upper body injury. Not long-term, but he's day-to-day. But the long-term injuries, there are plenty. Larocque has been out since the beginning of the year. But you've got Doc, Newhook, Laine, and Gouli all out long-term. So, where does that leave us? Well, the Montreal Canadiens in good standing as far as the lineup that they have. The Ottawa Senators just getting Brady Tkachuk back. This is going to be his second game back from injury. We'll see how the lineup looks, but they're going to be a little thin on the back end with just Sanderson back there and Zub. Right, their other four defensemen, not really NHL names and not really ready for prime time. So that brings us to the keys to victory for your Montreal Canadiens. So what are those keys to victory? Well, number one, as always, the Montreal Canadiens need to control the neutral zone. They need to make sure they attack the middle of the ice with speed because the Ottawa Senators, especially the Stützle line, that's where they generate offense from. They generate offense to the middle of the ice, and Montreal needs to tighten up in the neutral zone, make sure they keep a good gap, control the defense, actually, what I should say is the defense needs to control the gap in the neutral zone, angle the forwards smartly to the outside, and make sure they make Ottawa work for every chance that they get. If you make Ottawa dump the puck in rather than carrying it across the blue line, you've already run half the battle because they do not have the size or the skill to beat the Montreal Canadiens on the perimeter, especially not the Canadiens' defense, which is, other than Lane Hudson, is extremely strong along the half wall. The second thing, I mention him all the time, here it is again, shut down Tim Stützle's line. While the Tkachuk line can be very dangerous, and we know that Shane Pinto loves to play against the Montreal Canadiens, the Stützle line drives Ottawa's offense through speed and creativity. The Canadiens need their top checking line, whether it's going to be the first line versus first line, or whether you're going to take Evans and Anderson and put them out there against the Stützle line, which I don't think is going to happen. They need to make sure they clog up Stützle's space, they stay tight on him, and they don't allow him to generate any type of attack. Because if you don't let him dictate the pace, Stützle not only is far less dangerous, but he's also very prone to taking stupid penalties. And that's one thing that the Canadiens can definitely take advantage of versus the Senators. The third thing, extremely important for Montreal to have any type of success, is to attack the Ottawa defense on the forecheck. Much like I said against Colorado, other than maybe Cale Makar, who moves the puck up ice very quickly, or Devon Toews, for that matter, the defense on the Ottawa Senators outside of Zub and Sanderson not very experienced. So they tend to be a little bit tight in their own zone. So if the Canadiens can put the pucks in deep, put them along the half wall, and forecheck hard, they're going to be able to create scoring chances from below the goal line, get pucks out into the slot, and generate offense. The Canadiens are great at getting high percentage chances so far this season. It hasn't been shots from the outside where they've been getting 30 and 35 a game. They've been shooting from the middle of the ice, getting good quality chances and forcing opposition goaltenders to make good saves. So make sure you pressure that defense because they struggle at making quick decisions. Send in a fast, layered forecheck, and make sure guys like Slavkovsky and Gallagher, they're the ones that are leading that forecheck. Anderson as well, because they finish when they put the puck in deep. They finish their checks on the forecheck. And when they do that, they separate man from puck, and a guy like Slavkovsky in that second line can be very effective against a team like the Ottawa Senators. Another thing you want to do against Ottawa is make sure you do not take penalties. The Canadiens need to remain disciplined. Ottawa loves to go to Montreal into stupid penalties. It's a thing. Tim Stützle likes to dive. He embellishes quite a bit. Brady Tkachuk gets under everybody's skin. So they love to get Montreal behind the 8 ball by forcing him onto the penalty kill. The penalty kill has been Montreal's Achilles heel because it keeps their offense off the ice. If the Canadiens are going to have any type of success, they need to stay disciplined. They need to stay on the right side of the power play ledger and get their own power plays in order to take advantage of Ottawa's lack of defense. And at the same time, they need to keep the Ottawa power play off the ice. They also need to win the goaltending battle. And how do they do that? Well, it's twofold. Number one, they need to make sure, like they did versus the Golden Knights on Friday, they need to insulate Sam Montembeault, allow him to stop pucks, gather in rebounds, control the rebounds, and see pucks coming in. When he sees pucks coming in, there's no doubt that Sam Montembeault could stop them. His positioning is better. Let's see if he maintains that. But at the end of the day, he's going to need to be just as good, if not better, than he was versus the Vegas Golden Knights. As far as Ottawa's concerned, we still don't know whether it's going to be Merrilainen or whether it's going to be Ullmark in nets. But one thing is for certain. Both of those goalies hate it when there's traffic in front. Ullmark tends to lose his mind and focus when bodies are in front of him. So again, guys like Slavkovsky, Anderson, Gallagher, their impact is going to be paramount in this hockey game. They need to get their asses in front of the net. Bolduc as well. Bolduc is going to need to take on that part of the job that Slavkovsky has left off that first line. They need a pest. They need somebody to generate offense from the half wall, finish body checks, dig pucks out. That is what Bolduc needs to do. He can't be a third finesse player on a line that doesn't need finesse. So get your asses in front of the net. Make Ullmark's time difficult. Even Florian Xhekaj can be one of those guys who can get in front of the net and wreak havoc because he's not easy to move either. And there you have it. Those are your 5 keys to victory for Montreal versus the Ottawa Senators. Again, win the neutral zone battle. Make sure you control it. Limit the amount of speed that Ottawa can generate to the neutral zone. Force them to dump pucks in. Shut down the Tim Stützle line. If you mitigate the amount of space he's got in the neutral zone, and you force him to the outside and force him to dump pucks in, he is less effective, and he becomes much more frustrated when that happens. When he's frustrated, he makes poor decisions and takes penalties. Pressure Ottawa's defense. Finish your body checks, get pucks in deep, and force the Ottawa defense into quick decisions. They normally make mistakes and give away the pucks when you do. Stay disciplined. Stay on the right side of the penalty numbers. Get more power plays and penalty kill. Make sure you keep that penalty killing unit from Ottawa off the ice. Difficult task, but not impossible. And finally, goaltending. Montembeault's got to be good, and we've got to get traffic in front of Merrilainen or Ullmark to be successful. And there you have it. Those are your keys to victory versus the Ottawa Senators. What do you think? Do you think Montreal can come back from what happened versus the Colorado Avalanche and they can rate that game off? I'm sure that Marty St. Louis had a talk with his players and said, guys, that was the best team in the National Hockey League. They've only lost 2 games this season. Put it aside. We're not there yet. Let's move on to Ottawa, a team that we know we can compete with and be better against. And that's not to say by the end of the year the Montreal Canadiens cannot be at the Avalanche's caliber, but right now they really don't have the talent to do so. Whether that changes during the season through trade, we'll see. or whether we get players back from injury. That would be a big part of getting back to that level where we may be able to compete with the Colorado Avalanche. But tell me if you agree or not. Put it in the comments. Let me know. What more is there to say about this game? Not much. It's going to be really important to watch this game because it's going to dictate a lot of what may happen versus the Winnipeg Jets on Wednesday. Will the Canadiens have to expend all their energy versus Ottawa and a little bit less versus the Jets? I think that's the way to do it because of the fact that the Ottawa game is in division, the Winnipeg game is not. And the Canadiens do have a game in hand on Ottawa. It's a 4-point game tomorrow. The Canadiens need to take advantage of it and pull out all the stops. So let's see a lot of energy from Montreal. If they put that energy in and they pounce on the Ottawa Senators early and often, more likely than not, Ottawa is going to fold like a cheap tent and the Canadiens are going to come away with an easy 2 points. If not, it's going to be a battle. And then that may very well cost them more than that because the very next day they play the Winnipeg Jets. We'll look at that as we're going to look at the end of the Winnipeg Jets game. Thanks again for watching. Be sure to be here tomorrow night after the postgame, for the postgame show. And at the same time, we'll preview the Winnipeg Jets versus Montreal Canadiens on Wednesday. Ciao for now.